as it blocked additional measures aimed at Russia over.
Hello and welcome. I'm Thomas Porteous and you're watching the World Report on NewsX World. Let's take a look at some of the top headlines of this hour. President Donald Trump declares a golden age of America in his State of the Union address, defending his economic record amid sliding approval ratings. With Republicans fearing midterm losses, he credits himself with lowering inflation, cutting taxes and drug prices, and driving stock markets to record highs. Trump delivers his annual address amid falling poll numbers and a Supreme Court ruling that strikes down most of his signature tariffs. He largely sticks to the script but turns combative on immigration, trading shouted barbs with Democratic lawmakers. President Trump signals he may order military action against Iran, saying he will not allow what he calls the world's top sponsor of terrorism to obtain a nuclear weapon. Despite building up US forces in the Middle East, he offers limited detail on why such a strike would be necessary. Ukrainian negotiators meet US officials to discuss post-war reconstruction, including a proposed prosperity package, President Volodymyr Zelensky says. Talks will also prepare for a possible trilateral meeting with Russia, which Kyiv hopes to hold in early March. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi arrives in Israel for a two-day visit aimed at deepening strategic ties as US-Iran tensions raise fears of regional conflict. Modi, who made a historic visit in 2017, seeks to build on growing defense and diplomatic cooperation with Prime Minister Netanyahu. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz begins his official visit to China, pushing to reset trade and address strains on Germany's manufacturing sector. Meeting Premier Li Qiang in Beijing, both sides back free trade amid US tariff disruptions and sign agreements on climate and food security. The United Nations Security Council expresses deep concern over escalating violence in Sudan and calls for an immediate end to the fighting. The Council condemns drone attacks on civilians and aid workers, including multiple strikes affecting World Food Programme operations. Japan says it will deploy surface-to-air missiles to its western island of Yohaguni by March 2031, signalling a stronger defense posture near Taiwan. The island lies just 110 kilometers from Taiwan amid rising tensions with China. Those are the headlines, but we start this hour with developments coming out of Europe's defining conflict, where Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has confirmed that Ukraine and the United States will hold bilateral talks in Geneva on February the 26th. These will be led by Ukrainian Defense Minister Rustem Umerov and US negotiators Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner. The discussions will focus on a prosperity package, with both sides looking to finalize details. Following this, preparations will begin for a trilateral meeting involving Ukraine, the US and Russia, expected in early March. Zelensky also mentioned that a prisoner exchange will be discussed, along with progress on humanitarian issues. Despite tensions in political negotiations, the military track has made significant progress, with ceasefire terms nearing completion. Joining us now is retired Major General A.K. Sawatch, a geostrategic expert, joining us live from New Delhi. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us here on the programme. It's great to have you on. First of all, bilateral talks between the United States and Ukraine. We've seen them before throughout Donald Trump's second term. However, this security guarantees document, what the United States and Ukraine are calling a prosperity package, what are the options of what it might hold here? Obviously, Article 5 of NATO has been ruled out along with the organization's membership. But what will Ukraine be hoping for in that document?
No doubt, Thomas. What's happening is that Ukraine cannot join NATO. That's a red line of Russia. So therefore, Ukraine has to find some sort of a security measure, and that's why they are say a security guarantee akin to Article 5 of NATO must be given. And I think that's where process is going on. The US, whereas Europe and NATO will also get involved and give the security guarantee. Now, what is happening is presently with the meeting which should take place tomorrow, basically in Geneva, that is between the US official as well as the defense minister of Ukraine and his team. The US official Steve Witkoff and also Jared Kushner, who is the son-in-law of Donald Trump. Now, what they are likely to discuss is the prosperity package. That is the reconstruction activity. How will it shape? What are the contours of this, especially after the ceasefire comes? Because 70% of the infrastructure of Ukraine has completely been destroyed by the Russian attack, and therefore it needs that the prosperity package should be good enough to take care of the complete reconstruction. Now, as far as Ukraine is thinking that possibly they will able to sort of get about $800 billion of public and private funds in next 10 years. That's what they are thinking they will able to attract. And as per the World Bank, it requires about $588 billion for this reconstruction activity. All said and done, it's not an easy task. There are two issues which are involved. One is there has to be first ceasefire. Now, that's what it is saying, that possibly both the sides are now proceeding towards the ceasefire. There are certain gray area. There are matter of dispute between Russia and Ukraine. Russia's red lines are that they want complete Donbas area, that Donetsk and Luhansk, even the one which they have not still under control, and they want to negotiate on Zaporizhia nuclear plant, whereas they possibly may able to compromise in Kherson. And at the same time, they want that Ukraine should not join NATO. Whereas the Ukraine saying that if they don't join NATO, they must get a safety guarantee akin to Article 5. And the main important thing where the sticking point is that Ukraine is not ready to give land which is not taken by Russia so far in Donetsk and Luhansk. Now that is the sticking point. Possibly some sort of compromise will be reached. It looks to me like this because the way things are happening, possibly there can be ceasefire. Now this bilateral talk will take place now, and thereafter trilateral talk place in month of March, where Russia will also come in, and some sort of ceasefire guidelines may be finalized. So overall, it looks like that things are moving in the right direction. First the ceasefire, then the reconstruction activity done by the prosperity package.
Okay, and also, of course, the major sticking point going into those possible trilateral talks that will be coming early March is territory. Now, there is no point in even discussing this so-called prosperity package until territory is agreed upon. Do you think that both Russia and the United States are putting enough pressure on Ukraine to give up territory? Do you think that's going to happen, especially, of course, with Europe in Ukraine's corner when it comes to this, even given that it doesn't have a seat at a table in these talks coming up?
The point is, Thomas, you have to be realistic. Ukraine must understand that it can't regain what it has lost. It will keep on losing much more than what it has lost so far. Because as the war is progressing, it is advantage to Russia. And Russia is progressing toward the western side, that is eastern Ukraine. It is already taken almost 85% of Donetsk and Luhansk area. And in case if Ukraine does not agree to the terms and conditions of giving complete Donbas, then the war will not stop. And if the war does not stop, you will find that Ukraine will be further losing the area. And therefore, it is in the interest of peace and prosperity of the whole region that war must stop. And to war to stop, I suppose Ukraine has to agree to give some land to Russia. I think the US also want that, Russia also want. Of course, the Europe is not agreeing, NATO country, but they will agree, because otherwise the peace is not going to prevail. Then very rightly you said, where is the question of prosperity and reconstruction is starting until the ceasefire does not take place. I fully agree with it, but to me it looks like that it will be give and take. It has to be that. You remember Crimea was taken in 2014 by Russia. Nothing happened that time. Who said what? Nothing. So therefore, Ukraine must understand what is the ground reality. The ground reality is that Russia is advancing every day, and there is a more damage which is taking place in Ukraine side. Their infrastructure almost 70% is already gone. The energy sector is totally non-functional. People are suffering in Ukraine. There is no electricity as well as the gas. So in case if they think that peace must prevail, this has to be a compromise. It's supposed to be give and take from the both sides, Thomas.
If Ukraine does indeed agree to concede territory, what does that mean for the future of international law, the violation of sovereignty? What if Putin does indeed decide to fulfill his previous war aims and take the entirety of it later on? These security guarantees, of course, so important to Ukraine for that reason. What are your thoughts on the concerns there? Surely Zelensky can't just give away territory, given that he was in fact invaded back in 2022. Doesn't that set a precedent?
I know, I agree with you, Thomas. You are hitting the nail on the head. The problem of Zelensky that he does not have power to concede to the territory which is already in the Ukraine hand. That point is valid. But the area which has been taken by Russia so far in Donbas area, Donetsk, Luhansk, and the one which is still with the Ukraine, some 15%, it is a Russian-speaking area. Traditionally, it has been always with Russia. Even when the Soviet Union want to gather, and there was some sort of insurgency going on before Russia attacked on Ukraine on 24th February 2022. So to me, it looks like that. Until unless you do not concede something, it has to be give and take. And as we are saying that in case if Ukraine gives this area tomorrow, Russia will try to take more and may attack on Europe. I think it's a more far-fetched, because after all, Ukraine will get security guarantee. And in case if it gets a security guarantee and if Russia attack again, then I'm sure the security guarantee will take care of it. And it will be akin to Article 5 of NATO. So I suppose if we want a peace, there has to be some negotiation. It has to be give and take, and both sides have to concede to each other requirement so that peace prevails. Otherwise, the war will continue.
Major General Sawatch, do stay with us as we turn over to a related development coming out of Ukraine. The ambassador, Valery Zalekuzny, has said that the first Ukrainian drone production plant has started its operations in Britain. Zalekuzny has added that Ukraine is fighting a war amid constant missile strikes, infrastructure destruction, and threats to production facilities, and therefore the launch of production in the UK has a deep strategic logic. He also said that this is not a shift of the centre of gravity away from Ukraine, and it's an expansion of our joint capabilities and the creation of a second line of defence that guarantees continuity of production. Now we turn from war in Europe to war in Southeast Asia, where a Myanmar military airstrike on February the 24th killed at least 17 people in the western state of Rakhine, a region in Myanmar plagued by conflict since the 2021 military coup. The strike targeted the village market in Yo Ngu Phnom Gyun township, killing civilians, including children. The Arakan army, which controls much of the Rakhine, condemned the attack and reported that 15 more people were injured. The military's actions have intensified since the junta's power grab, with Rakhine suffering regular airstrikes, a blockade and rising malnutrition due to reduced international aid. Local witnesses described the aftermath of the attack as catastrophic, with destroyed buildings and widespread panic. Joining us to discuss this is Dr. Satoru Nagao, a fellow at the Hudson Institute. He joins us live from Washington, D.C. Thank you so much, Dr. Nagao, for joining us. We were just discussing the general election of Myanmar just a few weeks ago. It was hoping to bring political legitimacy to the country, but of course we forget a civil war rages on there. What are your thoughts on the latest wave of attacks and the broader scale of how intense that civil war is right now?
This election is legitimized government, and legitimized government means that they can vote rebellion as a meaningless rebellion or something like that view from the Myanmar government. But a view from the other countries, that election was not legitimized election because people vote for the army. It's just a support of the army. And so such kind of the vote is not election in the in other country. So that's why the military junta tried to increase the military operation against the Democrat side, but at the same time, it is not the legitimized military action against the civilian in Myanmar. And in case of the Myanmar's airstrike, indeed, this is a very big problem. The Myanmar's airstrike is destroying many civil purpose facilities in the area the army cannot occupy. So that's why this is violence against unarmed innocent civilian. And so that's why the many countries in the world do not want to support Myanmar's government airstrike. But in this case, Russia and China is providing weapons, and Myanmar can do that. So this airstrike operation itself is one of the representative of the Myanmar's military junta's side, which is they are authoritarian, not respect democracy. So even if they conducted the so-called election, which only Myanmar's military junta support vote, it is clear that what Myanmar's military junta did is quite authoritarian style.
Yes, and the nature of the way in which the military junta is using its air power. What can you tell us about the sheer brutality that is being used by General Min Aung Hlaing's military forces?
In this case, their target is important. Target is hospitals, schools. These are the infrastructure of their living. Because if they attack these facilities, people cannot maintain their lifestyle. That's why these people try to escape the area, and the military junta push them outside of the area, and they can occupy it. That's why the target is this infrastructure. But such kind of the attack itself is clearly indicate that their military operation is fight against civilian. So that's why if the military junta say all of the target is military purpose target, but that's not true. The civil purpose target is the target of them. So that's why such kind of military operations, they should not do that. And the international community can understand the current military junta is bad government.
Dr. Satoru Nagao, thank you so much for joining us here on NewsX World. It's a pleasure to talk to you. Do stay with us as we turn over to our next story. Chinese President Xi Jinping has told German Chancellor Friedrich Merz that their countries should strengthen strategic communication and mutual trust as the world becomes more turbulent and complex. Xi said he attached great importance to the two countries' relations. Merz, on his first visit to China, becomes the latest European leader seeking to reset ties with Beijing after Britain's Starmer and Canada's Carney earlier this year. Engagement between Europe's largest economy and China could set the stage for EU-China relations. Let's take a listen in to what Xi has said.
10年前呢，我曾经在一些场合呢提出了一个论断，就是世界正在经历100年未有大变局。近期呢，你也表示我们正在经历划时代的转折。世界越是变乱交织呢，中德两国要加强战略沟通，增进战略互信。
Dr. Nagao joins us once again to discuss this. Dr. Nagao, of course, we've seen some sort of tensions between Germany and China. Johann Wadepool, for example, the foreign minister, postponed his visit earlier this year, citing national security concerns, among others. However, Chancellor Friedrich Merz follows a flurry of Western leaders that have all went to Beijing earlier in the past few months. What can you hope from this visit, and what does this new Western warmth to Beijing signify?
View from China and view from Germany, there is a gap. View from China, authoritarian regime is a good regime and the democracy is not good. So in case of the democracy, look at the United States, as they said, President Trump imposed a tariff to many countries. After that, the court in the United States said this is illegal and the tariff is currently is uncertain. This is the democracy, and democracy needs election to choose the government, but every some years they need to change the government. That is also uncertainty, China said. So that's why the China want to say that China is trustworthy because long term the same government continue. So when the United States show they are the democracy and which is a little bit unstable because of the people's choices change always. But so view from China, this is a chance to expand influence. But view from Germany, this democratic instability is a good thing. Because the people's opinion is reflected, that's why democracy is uncertain. And this uncertainty means that opinion is reflected. So that's why this is the opinion of the people. And if Germany choose a side between the US or China, it is clear that Germany choose the United States as a ally. So that's why when Germany face some problem with the United States, because they want to cooperate with the United States as a tactics, as a pressure to the United States, Germany want to cooperate with China and ask the United States, is it okay for you? That is a message. But yes. Indeed, the real opinion of the Germany is very clear. Germany is the US side, not the China side. So that's why even if the China try to exploit the situation to expand influence to the Germany, indeed Germany will not reply, could happen.
Yes, Dr. Saturno Nagao, thank you so much for joining us. We'll continue to cover that visit as Merz continues his two-day visit to China over the next 48 hours. But now we move finally to Europe, where France has appointed Christophe Leriboul as the new head of the Louvre following a series of challenges, including a major jewelry heist and staff strikes. Leriboul is a renowned 18th century art historian who previously led the Palace of Versailles and other prestigious museums like Musée d'Orsay and Orangerie. According to reports, his task will be to modernize and secure the Louvre after the October heist, which exposed serious security flaws, and to address ongoing strikes, leaks and fraud investigations. A government report last year urged the museum to prioritize security and infrastructure improvements over acquisitions. Well, that's all that we have time for this hour. Keep watching NewsX World for more international news updates.